So yesterday I posted a video about my views on Malaysia as a country and what is done right, what is done wrong. Okay, so a viewer commented and asked me if I can comment on India and Indians in America. So I will do that as best I can. I am not Indian, but I think that maybe the Indians in America and also the Indians in India might benefit from a third person's point of view. So when you talk about India, and when you talk about US, you actually have to bring another third party into this mix, which is China. And the reason why is that for the past few decades, India has always been comparing itself to China's rise, right? Because from my understanding, Indians in India also have great ambitions for their own country. They're a big country with a huge population that will soon surpass China's. And yet, the country does not enjoy the same power or respect on the world stage as the other superpowers like Russia, China, and the US. In fact, it doesn't even seat on the UN Security Council, as far as my understanding. And it has, tried several times to get on that council, but China has always blocked it. So India, of course, being young and hungry, wants some respect and want a say in the big boys' table. But so far, India has not put together everything in place to show that it's a great power, economically, militaristically, culturally, to speak. And this is, again, don't take offense. This is just from a third person's perspective. This is not to say that India doesn't have a great culture, but the problem is with India today, from an outsider's point of view, is it never paid the blood price for unification. Whereas countries like America, China, Russia, they fought many bloody wars with other people and with each other to unify India, unify their countries. India today is patched together by the British. And when they left, India just sort of inherited what was given to them by their former white masters. And you see that immediately after the unification, within a few short years, Bangladesh and Pakistan split up, right? And India could not hold it together. But today, what's left today of India is, I believe, a more solid country. It's a more solid country for sure, because it survived almost more than half a century but into more separations. But with that legacy, with that lack of, because India didn't pay a blood price, it doesn't have such a strong claim like its northern neighbor to get things done, right? Because the central government was simply a compromise, was simply a very held loose agreement. Whereas, for example, India's northern China, neighbor China, they're held together by iron blood, by power, and that power was tested and retested and validated through blood and iron. That is the reason why China's central government is so powerful. That is the reason why China's central government can tell all the regional government what to do without too much pushback. Modi is trying to do the best he can to centralize, trying to, despite his preach of democracy, he actually trying to replicate to some extent the model of China, his northern neighbors. But he realized that without strong central power, you cannot have a clear national development path. Right now, India is just like this beautiful, noisy mess, right? And everyone's going every which way. Everyone has every which opinion, and no one can say, no, this is how we're going to do it. Everyone shut the hell up. Kind of like Indians in Malaysia, actually. It's just a cultural thing, right? So if you can't do that, then you just a bunch of nervous energy, a bunch of unfocused direction. But you need that focus, and that focus has to come from strong leadership. You can talk about democracy all day long, but the reality is democracy doesn't get you development. What gives you development is planning, focused initiatives. Right? And if you speak honestly with Indians, at least Indians that grew up in Asia, you ask them what is wrong with India today? Why does it lie behind China's development? I think most of them, when you talk deeply about it, they will admit to some extent that it's actually democracy that is holding India back. And if it had a much stronger leadership, it would probably gone a lot much farther. Maybe not as far as where China is, but it would certainly gone a lot further, right? And in a way, I know that Modi's doing a lot of not so nice things in India, but you have to understand from his point of view, if you want to develop a country, you have to do this. If you don't put some shackles on people and get them to do something together, how are you ever going to develop this country? Just by random force? And that doesn't work that way. If you believe that, you bought too much into Western bullshit. That's just what it is, right? And I think that is the reason why, to a certain extent, India feels so much. A lot of Indians feel a bit jealous and confrontational to China because it feels that it should be where China is, and it's not. And by hook by crook, China got there, and India didn't. And because of that, India is constantly comparing itself to China, and that's not healthy, right? Because India is a different reality. You're handed a different set of cards, and you got to play your card according to your circumstance. You cannot do what America does. You cannot do what Chinese does. It's just a different set of societies, completely different set of people, values, behavior, heritage, all that stuff. So okay, so that's end of my take on India standalone, okay? Then you look at Indians in America. So in my opinion, America is not a good thing for India. Even though India, America right now is buddies against China, the reality is every year the best and brightest Indians leave their home country to seek a better opportunity in America. And when they leave, they don't come back. Compared to China, where maybe 8 out of 10 students that go up to US, to Australia, to UK study, come back with the knowledge to develop the country, what do Indians do? As soon as they get a ticket to go to US, they go there and stay there. And they raise their children in America, and they develop a career there, and they probably retire and die. They don't even come back to die in India. And what that happens is basically you're stealing all these brain talents away from India. You're draining India of the most valuable resource in modern time, which is knowledge. Today's nation's economy are not built on resources anymore. They're built on knowledge. You can have the most resource-rich countries, resource-rich mines and whatever. It doesn't mean anything. Look at Africa; they got plenty of everything, but they can't develop, or they up to this point they can't develop, simply because they didn't have the right people. So ultimately, it's people that matter. So I think the better America does, the worse Indian does, because more and more top-notch Indians will go to America to seek opportunity. And that's draining away the best resources, right? So ironically, even though America and India are great friends right now, because of China, America is robbing India of its future in a way. And what about America? Let's say what I would say is that as a minority group, India has done extremely well in America. They certainly have done a lot better than every other racial group, such as Chinese, blacks, with the exception of Jewish people. Jews done way better than Indians, but they got there a lot earlier too, and they came from a European root, so they know how to work with the Europeans better. The European migrations better. But India has done really well, right? You look at tech, finance. Indians are already at the top rung of people. But in the long run, there might be a price to pay for this. One is because there's going to be a push. At some point, there's going to be a pushback by the white people. For sure, there's going to be a pushback. They say, whoa, too many Indians up here. They're starting to become too belligerent too vocal, and we need to put a stop to that. You can continue to work for us, but hey, nobody want to hear your opinions. That's gonna at some point that's gonna come about. They'll probably do it nicely, but it's gonna happen, right? And also with so much Indian migration, to a certain extent, American society will be Indianized, just like it has already Latinized to a certain extent. But because Indians are doing much more knowledge-based, higher valued, higher rung type of work, I think that the culture will tilt even more toward India in America. And that's going to get some feedback from the predominant white culture as well. Because, of course, I mean, they want to maintain their culture. That's America's built upon their culture. And now you're bringing into a completely different mindset, different behavior patterns to them. They may not like that. So there has to be at some point some balance for the Indians in America. Even though they're doing financially very wonderfully, they need to come back to India, develop India's culture, then India as a nation. If it don't do that, And then the funny thing is, you look at China's problem with America right now. Believe it or not, China's benefit greatly from this right now. Because why? All these Chinese people that are being treated harshly, being castrated, being bullied in the U.S., in Australia, and UK, what do you think they're doing? They're now considering for the first time to move back to China and take their skills, take their money, take their network, all back to China to help China develop. Because China right now is doing the opposite. They're embracing. In fact, they're now offering Chinese citizenship back to those who have forfeited it for U.S. or for UK, for Australian citizenship. China's very smart. Say, hey, why don't you guys get your ass back to China, bring what you know, what you learned, and help us develop here, and we'll give you your citizenship back. I'm afraid that if India offers the same program, no one's going to take it, or very few people is going to take that offer. In that case, that's very sad for India. So I guess to summarize is that one is India cannot be China, simply because it has not fought enough wars to build a strong central government that can trump local government. And there's too much freedom. In fact, that's the problem with India. Lack of organization, lack of coherent leadership. And of course there's a cultural issue. And two is that India suffered greatly from the brain drain, especially to US, but also to other parts of the world, like Europe, even to China now. Indians go to China. And finally, if Indians in the US has become too successful, there will be a pushback. There will be what you're seeing with Chinese, what you're seeing with Latin Americans, we're seeing all these people. We become too successful, we're going to become too vocal and too influential. There will be a lash out against Indians as well. It's coming. And finally, I would add to that if India ever become to a point where it can challenge U.S., I can guarantee you that will be turning immediately from China to U.S. That's given that if U.S. still number one in the world. If they're not number one, it doesn't really matter anymore. But if they're still number one, you can bet that when they're done with China, whoever's next, if that country is India, you're gonna get that next. That's just the way things works. Nothing personal, right? Okay, that's my thoughts on Indians in India and Indians in America.